Okay, that looks good. And that looks good. And that looks good. Oh, hello. Don't do that there. Okay, I think we're good. Hey everybody, and welcome to Live Art Hangout 57. This one does not have a title because I'm doing so many different things this morning, trying to catch up on some projects, and just, you know, going along doing stuff. So, goals here today, for the most part, just, you know, again, catching up on projects. I'll talk about some different things over the course of hopefully the next maybe hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on how long I stream. Hopefully get you guys some interesting conversations going in the comments as well. I know it's early this morning for a Saturday. Some people probably aren't even awake yet, especially over on the West Coast. So I'm hoping just to kind of, excuse me, try and kind of add just a little bit of fun to your morning. Also, I am fighting off the beginning of a sore throat, so if you hear me coughing throughout this, I apologize in advance. So I actually just finished up recording a tutorial, which what would have been today's tutorial will now be next week's tutorial, but I do want to show it off. I just threw it over on Instagram. But these are the colors I use, basically a lot of my regular colors, to create 4 different types of sort of magical energy and things like that. Should be a really fun tutorial. Some bit of dry brushing, bit of thin work. It's really sort of more of an advanced painting technique, something I've just been developing over the past couple of years, but really happy to share it with you guys, and hope to see you guys watching that one next week. That's going to be a nice big tutorial. This was it's the 2 camera setup, so it's the palette cam and the regular cam, so should be interesting. I'm going to use some of this leftover color in this piece over here. And so that should be interesting. Also, I tweaked the video for the stream a little bit, hopefully to both get better quality and still a stable frame rate. So you guys will have to let me know how that's going, because currently it's been lesser quality but a nice stable frame rate. And this I bumped up the quality but had to change like the compression or something like that to get it to be 720 and still 30 FPS. So. Again, if it looks nice and smooth and crisp, awesome. If it doesn't, let me know in comments. So yeah, I've got a handful of things to do before I actually get to any projects today, which first involves scraping off these palettes from last week. Actually, this one's okay. I didn't touch that one, apparently. Yeah, so I have a couple of these. I gotta write down actually my stuff on the agenda for today before I forget. So let me do that now on the side. Okay, apparently I only have 2 topics, at least that I can remember. But, yeah, a couple of stories from recent weeks here. Let's start out by scraping these down. So a little water, a little water. Blade. There we go. So nothing fancy. I do want to try and stretch a canvas today, which I normally do on the floor, but I might try and do on the table, just to kind of show the process, because I've got a couple of videos on it, but neither one of those videos really show it super well, and it's not real easy to do on a table, but I still want to try, at least. I gotta prep some stuff. I basically have nothing prepped. This is my problem, is at least Friday night I usually try and prep something for Saturday morning if I don't have anything really prepped. And, well, I've got this, but I may or may not work on that this week. And so I'm like, well, crap, now I have to prep today, and then I may not actually work very much at all this weekend, since I had to do all the prep work and everything like that. It's tough to kind of get me motivated. I've been a bit distracted lately, especially with some games, recent games and things. I've been playing a demo for the Switch called Daemon Ex Machina, which is super freaking fun. If you have a Switch, go pick it up. Set for a summer release date, and I'm like, man, I can't wait. It's gonna be great. And I was actually thinking about it, working in my sketchbook. I want to do a video about how just over the years certain video games have actually inspired different paintings of mine. And then I think there's probably one in there that I was inspired to look into a game after a friend told me that it looked like that one of my paintings looked like a game. So it should be fun to kind of look back at some old work and be like, oh yeah, this is where this idea came from. Alrighty, so I got to work on the collab a little bit last week. The goal was to work on it, with my friend, but we kind of worked in the morning, and then actually we took a trip out to the art store, and I spent a little bit over my budget this time around because I knew there were going to be some things I couldn't get at the art store that I had to order online, so I did an online shipment first, and then I went to the store, which you should never do because that destroys your budget. Because you'll just keep wandering around the store like, this looks good, I'll have some of this and some of this. And before I knew it, I had spent about the same amount of money as my online order. I'm like, oh, well, there goes my budget for March. So, I do want to at least highlight some of the things we got, or at least I got, I should say. She went home with her stuff, so I don't have it here. But should be fun. In addition to the art store, there's also a place down in Pittsburgh, not far from where the art store is, called the Center for Creative Reuse. Really cool store. I'd heard about it, never went, so we went there, and we found some stuff. One thing in particular that I found that I thought was pretty awesome was a pretty much completely new jar of the Golden's coarse molding paste, and I was like, it said $10, so I'm like, well, that's already a good deal. And we went to check out, and she's like, "Oh, that one's on sale. It's like another $3 off. So I got it for like $7." I'm like, "Okay, that's worth the trip right there." I can't remember what else I picked up when I was there. Oh yeah, big giant stretcher bars. She got a few things, and I was like, "All right, well, we're gonna." Actually, this tube's almost empty, so I'm gonna just do that. Leave that sit out because I'm probably gonna use it today. I got a couple of stretcher bars that I will need to supplement with some smaller, thinner ones, but these ones I think are about this, like half, almost 3/4 the width of my table, and these were I think like $2 a piece, which is way cheaper than you get at the art store. So what's the size on these guys? 56 inches. So I think I might do like a tall 12 by 56, or even like a real long one, but not for a while yet, because that's going to be a thing that, like, well, once I paint that and stretch it, I really got to have a place to put it, because it's going to be large and ridiculous. So those are the things I got at the sort of reuse place. There was a lot of stuff. There was like just a big barrel of stretcher bars, and they were all anywhere from like 50 cents to $2 a piece, and it's just like, holy crap, this place is a haven. Like old books, anything you wanted to find was at this place. Super fun. So yeah, okay, what else am I doing? So I have these paints that I'm going to do something with. Probably going to use at least a little bit of this today, but I think that some of that was starting to dry, so I want to at least spray this with water before I set it to the side. Keep it as wet as I can make it. Yeah, almost out of this Prussian blue, but luckily I almost always have backups to my tubes. So actually, before I get going with, I would say probably stretching this canvas, I want to talk again about some of the supplies I picked up. Some things that, excuse me, things that I both got in the shipment as well as got in the store. So yeah, let's see, what do we got? I got, in the shipment I got some crackle paste, which is another one of the, there's so many golden jars on my on my table now. It's like basically I have like half of all of their mediums now. I don't have a lot of the gels. I have a lot more of the pastes. I think I might have all of the pastes, or maybe just missing one. Anyhow, crackle paste. Now, one thing I do with all of my jars is I put a little dab of the color on top, so I know, or the medium on top, so I know what it is. I can kind of just feel the top, and like, yeah, I want some of that stuff. This stuff, because of how it works, I put some on, I let it dry, and I just turned it and it fell off. And I was like, oh, okay, let's try again. Nope, turned it, fell off. Then I'm like, okay, let's mix it with some color. Maybe it just needs that extra bit of bond. Mix it with some color, put some on, let it dry, turned it. It stayed a little better, but I then just went like that and touched it, and it fell off. I'm like, okay, you've got to be freaking kidding me. What am I supposed to do with this stuff? So it clearly needs a little bit more of a rigid and I would say absorbent substrate, because the top of this is a little smooth. So I applied some GAC 100 as well as just as a base coat, and then just kind of laid it on really, really thick, and ended up with this little swatch, so to speak, on a piece of thin, crappy plywood. So this is sort of my example for this. I don't know how I'm going to use it, but I want to try it forever. So it seems going to be... I probably wouldn't even put this on canvas, because I feel like the stretch of the canvas would cause it to then flake off. But it's just the nature of the product. You kind of, I guess, have to know that going in. I didn't really know that going in, so probably going to be looking at definitely some wood applications for this, or some of my slate stone when I paint on that stuff. But probably not going to be using this on canvas a whole hell of a lot. I also picked up the hard molding paste. This stuff is designed to be actually carved away once it's dry. But what I found to be really interesting is the stuff is really, really, really stiff. Like extra super stiff. Like I tried to grab a little with my finger, and I was like, holy crap, that is really stiff. So I was like, alright, we're going to have to find some interesting uses for that too, because I feel like it's going to hold those peaks super well. Actually, now that I'm looking at this, the hard molding paste is the one that was $10. That, of course, must have been the one that I got in the store, or possibly in the mail. But yeah, so this was... Yeah, it looks like it was used maybe a handful of times, but not a ton, before they dropped it off. And it's like, well, that's a good deal. So I picked that up. Let's see, what else did I pick up? I've got some new projects coming out of my sketchbooks that I kind of require sort of a metallic look to them. So I picked up a new color for me, some permanent silver. So in some upcoming paintings, you're probably going to start to see this particular paint used in some different ways. Really looking forward to that. There's actually a couple ideas that have been sitting in the back of my sketchbooks for a while, and I haven't done, specifically because I haven't had the silver yet. What else did we pick up? Let's see. We're going to grab this. We want to grab this, and this. Picked up a lot of crap. And this. Okay, so one of the things from the store, slowly expanding into a lot of these golden bottle mediums. This one is GAC 900. This is to heat set and paint on fabric. I don't paint on fabric a ton, but when I do, I'm like, oh man, I could really have used some of this stuff. Now I've got it, so now it's just a thing in the arsenal. I'm also like just finding things and finding that now that I'm picking up certain divisions of art products, I'm finding that I have to kind of expand my shelves and figure out where I'm going to put stuff and rearrange my shelves a little bit. But that's a project for another day. Also, what you guys might find interesting is because I'm specifically an acrylic painter, and I do, you know, again, as much acrylic stuff that I do, and I always say, oh, I hate oils, I hate oils, I hate oils. I'm kind of starting to lean into oils, not as my primary painting medium, but for specialty projects. And I think I brought this up at least once or twice before. So I picked up a tube of what they're calling domestic yellow ochre. I don't know what makes it domestic, but whatever. From the Williamsburg oil line. This stuff is super, super, super thick. Wow, that's still tacky after a week. That's nuts. That's oils for you. But this is the company is actually owned by Golden, which is pretty neat. but that was only very recently. This stuff is super thick paint. This is like, I was trying to squeeze a little out of the top to get the cap test, and it was like thick like clay. I'm like, whoa, this is going to be a cool color to play with. And I picked this up because I wanted to try that oil buff finish that I learned from my late friend with some different colors. But my friend Rareth pointed out that the asphaltum is transparent. This is a very opaque color, so it might have limiting or different results. So I wasn't really thinking ahead. Now that I'm thinking ahead, I actually wanted to get some transparent red iron oxide to do on the buff, but this I might do an underlayer with, and then paint acrylic over top of once that dries. So it's the same technique, but rather than doing it last, you do it first, so it has a nice rich brown undertone before you start working on top of that. So that's my idea for that stuff. I also picked up some Gamblin Galkid Light because, again, I'm primarily an acrylic painter. I need stuff to dry quickly. This stuff is a quick drying medium for oils, so I'm like, okay, definitely going to need some of this by far. There's a lot of different oil mediums, like, oh, slows drying, makes it glossier and slows drying, makes it more matte and slows drying. I'm like, they're oils, you don't need to slow the drying any more than they already are. It's ridiculous. Also, I finally have my 3 primaries for the Golden Open. This is the slow drying acrylic. So I've kind of been finding, especially in this studio, I've been here, might have been here officially 2 years now, which is pretty cool. And I've slowly kind of been working with maybe slowing my acrylic drying time down just a little bit because it's very dry down here, and especially in the winter, being right next to the furnace. I tend to have an even less working time than I did in my old studio. So I wanted to actually pick up an alizarin crimson hue. Now these opens are not available in my personal Blick store downtown, but that was like, well, I can get them online. A large portion of the colors online were on back order, so I had to look through all the different reds to find one that wasn't on back order that was also one that I wanted. So this is Parole Red Dark. Parole Red's a great color, the regular standard one. Also, so I've heard people call this Pyrole Red. I heard it as Parole. I think that's right. It might not be, but I think Pyrole sounds stupid, so I'm saying Parole. Anyway, so it's a nice, deep, rich red. I really, really like this color, and I think despite not getting the alizarin crimson hue, which I actually have in the high flows, because I wanted to get it just in a thicker viscosity, which I still might down the road. Actually, I might add it to my heavy body palette as well at some point, but I thought this was a good addition to that. So my colors for the open now are the Parole Red, Benzimidazolone Light, some Phthalo Blue Green shade. I actually did add Phthalo Blue back to my palette after it being gone for 5 or 6 years, I think. It's a convenience color. Every now and then I'm like, I just want to grab a little bit of that color, and actually it's helped me considerably with skies and water as of late. This brand new piece, this sky, is that Phthalo Blue green shade in the open, and then mixed with my regular acrylic white to get a nice smooth look to that. The one thing I found with a lot of these open colors, though, is they are very, very transparent. So a lot of times I'm mixing a more opaque regular heavy body in with it as well, and then I also have some bone black. So 3 primaries and a black. I guess I might have to get a white at some point. It'll probably end up being the open version of the Titan buff, so it'll be a little bit warmer of a white. But yep, so I've got expanding into the opens a bit. And last but not least, at least I think it's last. Did I get anything else? Oh, I did get something else. I got some watercolor medium. Basically reminding myself to use watercolors more often. For any other watercolor paints, it would be gum arabic. Sorry, took me a second. This is the Golden's Core, which is called Aquazol. It's slightly less yellow than a gum arabic would be. this is probably a bad example, but this is linseed oil, and it would probably be similar to this yellow, but this is a lot less yellow, so it would be better mixing, especially with like a white gouache. So I've got some of this. I think it increases like adhesion and gloss in watercolors and stuff like that. And because I use watercolors in a lot of mixed media applications, I was like, this would probably be a good idea to have around. And that's been on the long-term wish list for a while. So yeah, the last couple of things that I had picked up, whereas this has been on the wish list for a long time. I probably didn't. Sketchbooks too. That was like the whole purpose of going in the first place, was to restock my sketchbooks. Was to get some design vellum, and this stuff's expensive, and I don't know why, because it's actually very, very similar to tracing paper. It's considerably thinner, but it is a little bit more transparent, which I actually wasn't expecting. I thought this was going to be more of an opaque paper, but I was like, okay, this stuff's interesting. And despite hating Copic markers when I tried them, I want to give them another shot, and so I did. I picked up the wide ones, and these ones, the first time I really saw and was inspired by a Copic marker video, it was the wide ones. So this is W3, 5, 7, and 9. They're all warm grays. And it's like, all right, what do you do with those? Well, taking a cue from one of my favorite YouTubers, Scott Robinson, I did this. And this was fun. And this is one of the things I actually doing to work on this morning, is because this has actually turned out pretty cool. I was just kind of sketching randomly, and I was like, this turned out all right. So I do want to come back in with these and push my my shadows a little bit more. You can kind of see it starting up in here, and there's a couple I think in the back. So I want to go in and just add a little more detail into this. And actually, I'm going to frame it. I have a old frame here that's a nice borderless one. The one thing I am doing, though, I'm putting a piece of printer paper underneath it, because without it, those are a lot more dull tones picking up on the black underneath. So I'll do this as a split, so you can actually kind of see that difference. So yeah, I want to just give this a little bit more attention. I'll probably sign it with a white my white Uniball pen, and then just give it a little bit more. I did actually a second one of these. It's very similar. This second one you can see me creating over on the second channel. I did a video, finally updated the second channel last week. That was last Monday, because that's when I upload second channel videos, are Monday when I have them. So I did this sketch in real time, and then I talked about 5 tips for breaking your fears of working in sketchbooks. So this was just kind of ironic, because this wasn't in a sketchbook, but yeah, really fun to work on this stuff. So I'm going to work on this, I don't know about now, but maybe soon with working on the sketchbook. So I'm gonna work on that. And again, these markers are really interesting because you have a really wide, fat tip on these. So it really kind of allows you to get these blocky shapes, but you can kind of turn it on the side and get all thin ones and stuff like that. Maybe I'll do another one of these sketches from scratch a little bit later. Yeah, so I want to get that canvas stretched and hopefully gessoed before I do anything else, because that's going to take a while to dry. So I'll set that to the side. Got our blues. Studio table's such a mess. This here, that there. I started a piece, that was like last week too, in the midst of doing work on the collab and everything. And it was like this isn't working. I don't know the way it's turning out. I want to completely change up the composition. So that's sitting in the corner. So I probably won't touch that for another month. But you know, that's how it works. So I need some tools. I need a roll of canvas. And I think this is a 12 by 24 stretcher bars. Yeah, I've got a couple of them in the corner, but they're not prepped, which sucks. My friend at the Center for Creative Reuse got a whole roll of pre-primed canvas, and I was like, oh man! Like if I didn't already have a whole roll of canvas, I probably would have picked that up, because it was like, I don't know, $8, $10. And it was it was funny too. It was a lot like mine, because mine I have trimmed. There was like some on the top, and then halfway down there got to be more. And it's like, oh, whoever, dropped this off did the same thing I do. Just is where you just kind of figure out how much you need based on that. So this I probably will have to put on the floor to, yeah. And I gotta turn this one, so I'm not gonna get as much out of here. It'll be a little bit of a waste, but actually not if I go that way. I'll just go vertically from the top. Yeah, so this I have to do on the floor because I just don't have that much space on the table. I've got other stuff on the table. But once I rip this piece off, should be fine. That's good. That's good. So I want to give this about 2 inches or so. There. Here. And we give it a rip, which is the most fun and satisfying thing to do in the world. Alright, now I got a square. Could you spare a square? It's a rectangle, it's not a square, Ben. Learn your shapes. Just remember a couple other things I picked up, but they're small, so. I got a brush, because I always seem to get a brush. One of the brushes I got was a replacement for one that's getting to be a little bit splayed out. Alright. Okay, well now we're all wrinkly. Come on. That's better. Okay. Put a third wrap around that one. Okay. So we got ourselves a piece. Canvas. Hello. Yeah. Like so. Alrighty. Now. Nice, beautiful piece of canvas. So, yeah, I just double checking, making sure I'm monitoring comments if any are coming through. So, canvas. Oh yeah, other newer supplies. That's what I forgot. I knew it was in the middle of some train of thought. I just, let it lapse. So, oh yeah, the brush. The brush is where we were. So, where is the old one first? Is what I want to pick out. That's the new one. That's the old one. So this is the old version of this brush. I picked this up. So now I got to think back. Maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So this is a flat. It's just gotten very, very spread out. This is what it looked like initially. Actually, this might have been a bright, but I'm not sure now. Anything left on the handle that I can even find? Not really. They're locked. Ultra. Finest. Really hard to say. I think they're the same brush. But this one, I don't know why, it just feels a little longer or something on the ferrule. Maybe it's just that really is that worn out. But yeah, this is what it looked like initially. This is what it looks like now. So that's why I picked up a new one, because it's nice to have that crisp edge. Because once you lose that crisp edge, the what you can do with the brush changes quite considerably, actually. Let's see, what else did I pick up? This is why it's bad to go to the art store, because you start getting stuff you know you don't really need. This is definitely going to be a video, whether it's this channel or Sketch Every Day. This is called Sketch and Wash. It's a water-soluble graphite. A couple companies make them. This one in particular is from Generals. I think my friend has a Faber-Castell one. But so you can kind of do some sketch work, and then you can just take a brush with water and just spread it around like a watercolor pencil. So I got to try one at one point, and I was like, I've been meaning to add these in to my set of pencils. And then the other, I think the final, oh yeah, a couple final things. Picked up a lot of shit. We have the Pilot G2. This is just a nice sketch pen. I think it was my boss had one of these that I borrowed for a second. I was like, ooh, this is a nice pen. And I was like, I think as an alternative to my Uniball pens, this would be good to have a couple of these. I might, in a couple of months when my Uniballs have run out, I might switch to one of these for a while, just to switch things up a little bit. And then, of course, when you find something you didn't knew even existed, especially when it's small and simple like a pen, you have to pick it up. This is a Micron pen. I use Micron pens a lot, but I saw this thing. It was a blue writing instead of the red writing, and it said PN. I'm like, PN? PN? What the hell does PN mean? I looked at it, I opened it up, and it means plastic nib. My one complaint with a lot of the Micron pens is that the tips tend to wear out pretty quick, and this would completely change that entirely and make sure that it lasts. So I gotta test this out more extensively. So I was like, ooh, well, something I've never seen before. So I definitely have to look at it. So I think that actually is everything now. I picked up some calligraphy ink at some point. I don't think I've talked about it because I haven't used it yet, but I want to try and plug some of this into my Pentel brush pen at some point, because that was, I think, something that you guys suggested to me I should do, is use calligraphy ink rather than India ink in those pens. So I have to, I guess, figure that out. Alright, so what do you say I actually stretch the damn canvas instead of sitting here talking about art supplies, which is always fun, but... So I'm going to actually lift my mic back up, because I'm going to be using the staple gun, and that's going to be loud. Hopefully it won't be as loud for you guys, but... Again, if it's too loud, if you happen to be wearing headphones, turn your volume down. It's one of those things I usually do on the floor, but it might be a little noisy here, so lift up the mic and not talk for a little bit as I work on this. Come on. There we go. Pain in the ass wood today. Man. almost done. Okay. That was fun. Always is. That actually worked better on the table than I thought it would. I was a little worried at first that it was going to be too awkward, but it actually turned out being okay. Yeah, part of the reason why I actually do that on the floor a lot is just that height difference. You saw me move that palette earlier if you were watching. I was like, I'm going to run into this problem as soon as I do this. Because a lot of times I'm stretching these canvases and they're going to be too tall, especially if it's above 24 inches, which is why I end up doing it on the floor more often than not. So, Truth and Freedom. You need a cinder block. I've got one. It sits out in front of my house. If you watch any of my video intros too, you'll see it. So, the cinder block is real. Also, the entire studio. That's what the walls are. So, kind of where the name comes from. Of course, the name predates this particular studio, but it's a similar thing anyway. Nice to have you in chat, by the way. Anyone else watching, feel free to jump in chat, say hi. I'd love to hear about whatever projects you've got going on today. So yeah, go ahead and gesso this and get it started. First layer of gesso always takes the longest to dry, which sucks because I really want to work on this thing today. And I won't probably get the chance to. So, I got a friend coming later, but at least I know he wouldn't mind if I worked while we were hanging out, because that happens from time to time. I'll have a friend by and I'll be like, oh, well, I'm working on a thing today. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, don't let me keep you from working. Nice to have friends that kind of like, oh yeah, no, keep making stuff. Don't let me stop you from making stuff. I'm due for another painting process video soon too. I really want to make one, but I gotta wait for the right piece and having the time for it as well. Fluid acrylics today. Ooh. Oh, cinder block to knock in the staples. Yeah, the thing is, like, a hammer would work, but I have this little, like, chip of marble that I used at one point just because I needed something to tap in the staples with, and it just kind of stuck. That's what I ended up using, and that's what I still use. Like, that's what I use that for. It's just like tapping things in the studio. I think it's because it has that edge to it, that thin edge, where a hammer is a little more wide, and I can be, I guess, a little bit both rougher and more gentle with it at the same time. Yeah, that's fun backstory to the weird stuff I have down here. Fluid acrylics sound fun. I've used them in the past, just mostly as a supplement though, not just for the stuff that I do. So I'll finish this. I'll grab that sketch I wanted to finish up, and then we'll see what we can actually do with some real paint. I'm happy I at least was able to kind of clean the studio table off at the very least today. And even just spreading this gesso around is just really scratching the painting itch for me today. Just being able to lay that on there. this edge. That wonderful sound of a freshly stretched canvas. Alright, I'll have to rinse this brush out, so I'll have to step away from the camera for a little bit. Take the canvas with me. Oh, I've got that painting I can work on too. I forget about all these things. I'll be back in a minute. Okay then. So, yes, this is the one we were working on. So I was working just on the back of the piece there for that. And I want to get my stool so I can actually sit down. Because if I'm sketching like this, a stool is kind of nice for that. Alright. Now, just grab the 3 to start. See where we're at with those shapes. I don't want to do too much to this to really change things. I just want to refine it in just a couple of places. And I found that with these, you really kind of have to manage your whites, because you can very easily cover it in gray. It's like, oh crap, I wanted to go lighter, and then you can't. So, just define a couple other shapes in here. Mostly it's going to be the darker foreground colors. And I thought to myself, like, oh, I don't need anything lighter than a 3. Then as soon as I did my first mark with the 3, it's like, yeah, I should have gotten a 1 too. But I'll know for next time, I guess. Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever really use these in any big projects, but just doing these big sort of single page, just like randomy landscape sketches, was just really fun. And I was like, I gotta do more of these. I might end up scanning them, and then maybe doing just a little extra work in Photoshop or something, and play around with the ideas that way a bit. But yeah, I'm not really sure. It's just, at this point, it's just sort of that raw, let's just make stuff and see what happens stages. Yeah, so I definitely, I think for this live show I want to do another one of these just on camera, just because they're really fun, and they come together real fast too. I mean, my initial one of these I think took 15 minutes. My second one took 10, so I could probably do one of these in 5-10 minutes easily. Copic wides, yes they are. Picked them up recently, despite not using any. I tried some Copic sketch markers a while ago, and I actually didn't really like them that much. I mean, I didn't hate them, but it was like I don't feel like I can. I don't feel they add anything to my process that I can't either do with watercolor or digitally. But I went back to sort of one of my first videos that I saw, at least the Copic wides in, and I was like, I got to get some of these because that extra wide chisel tip actually kind of seems to lend itself to sort of these fantasy landscape rock things that I do quite often. So I'm just gonna go ahead and adding just a couple more darks and things in here, going over some shapes to get maybe just that extra layer. That's all that. I think that's all that really needed. Just a little extra, a little bit more up in here, actually. Yeah, pretty neat. So yeah, I want to take the white pen. This is the only real difference in the medium. It's ink. It's all ink regardless. So, and this is, I'm actually probably going to sign this for February because that's really when I did the piece. So yeah, this is an interesting example of how sometimes a sketch can just become a finished piece. Not often, but it's like, you know what, it just turned out awesome. I want to put this in a frame, And where a lot of other pieces I do might get like a final coat of fixative or something, because it's ink, you don't even really need it. But what I do want to do is get some Windex and clean this piece of glass. And I might have to put down the headphones to get to that side of the room. Actually, dug this frame out of a box the other day, and I was like, oh, I didn't know I still had one of these frames. I thought I used them all. So I want to get paper towel. Use a nice soft one for this. Thanks, Mark. Probably shouldn't have sprayed that directly towards the drawing. And then this you kind of just pull and separate. Super easy to do. I gotta see where it's gonna be this way. Okay. And then, wow, that really was nice and dusty. I think I got these frames at Michael's at some point. I don't know if they still sell them or not, though. They were really nice. Made for nice, simple things for smaller pieces of artwork. Probably end up hitting that again once that's in there. Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, I'm putting this buffer layer of just a regular piece of white paper in to brighten up the backdrop for it. Is that in the front and the top? Yeah, here we go. And if I don't do anything else today, I feel like that's a good accomplishment right there. Give that another like that. You're thanking me. I'm not sure what you're thanking me for. I don't know if I did anything. Not yet, anyway. Mostly just be, oh yeah, that looks nice. Yep. That's going to be a fun one to hang up. Alright, so let's do another one of those, just because that's really fun to do. So, design vellum is way too expensive for being just fancy tracing paper. But works well. I actually want to tape this down, because last time I did one of these it moved around a bunch. It was really annoying. So I'm just going to get a little piece of drafter's tape and stick this underneath the top, which you'll see through a little bit on that, but didn't even stick. Okay, well, we tried. It'll just have to move around a little bit. Alright. I think once I do this, I'll be warmed up enough that I can jump into my painting for the day. Put this Windex aside. Get my juice. Okay, start light. W3. So, I like the idea of doing maybe like a large tower or something in the back. Or maybe vertical. Yeah, let's make a vertical one. So we'll go start here and just yeah. Little tower in the back. Just start pushing shapes around, basically. Maybe it's like a radio tower. I can put a couple of those on top, built into this big structure. Yeah, these are fun because it's just really quickly you get shapes and things like that. Just mostly thanks to just the fact that the marker is so big. You can really kind of get shapes super quick. Maybe there's some water in here we can push almost like reflections of some of these shapes in here. Again, trying to manage those white spaces before I really start playing with the dark markers. Love the videos. And what's the next one? I introduced this in the very beginning of the stream, but I'll show it again. So this was supposed to be this week's video. This is a tutorial. It's similar to the dry brushing tutorials, but it's about creating 4 different distinct types of fantasy sort of magical energy. So we have fire, water, lightning, and just like pure straight up magic. So really fun technique. It's going to be nice. It's probably one of those big, longer painting tutorials. I did the 2-camera setup. If you've seen any of the long tutorials, you'll notice that from them. But this was super fun to work on. It was supposed to be this week, but I got behind this week, so I couldn't get it filmed in time. But next Saturday for sure you'll be seeing this video. So that's that. Yeah, I've got so many cool video ideas sitting on paper right now that I really want to get to. I just got to have a day where that's all I do is just sit and film videos, which actually might be this Sunday if I can work up the motivation for it. Might try and get a few things recorded this weekend. Yeah, this week's video is just the stream because, again, I got behind, so. Alright, so we got that sort of as a field to start. I kind of like that. I'm going to jump into the 5. Maybe put a little bit of a shadow on the tower before I get to that next big layer, but put just a little extra detail in that. Finding where those shapes and things are. I want to do a nice big rock in here somewhere, like there. Which then kind of branches itself out a bit. Other one there. Big thing here. Frame up the composition a bit. Get some taller structures or ladder. For some reason I like kind of doing these little ladder type things, especially when I'm just kind of playing around. I don't know why. A little bit of a callback to a piece I did back in, oh geez, now 2013 I think, called Steel and Stone, which I think there's a video for here on the channel. Ended up selling that piece a couple of years ago. Or actually, no, I think it was last year that I sold that. Can't really remember. I know it was a surprise. Like, oh, somebody bought this. And I was like, oh, what do you know? And I had to ship it out, and I was like, wow, great. Now we gotta pay for shipping insurance and all that fun stuff. Yeah, really kind of wrap that around with those perspective lines. I might bring some of the 3 into almost be just like almost a little bit of a both a highlight and a shadow. Just areas that I want to be a little bit darker, but also don't want to be too overpowering with. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Okay, 7's our next step down. Same as before, I'm playing with a couple of shadows from the previous layer first. Kind of imagining an upper right light source, so I'm trying to reflect my shadows in those directions, or rather the direction opposite. Okay, I'll do structure here. Some extra sticks in here, I think. More angles. Just those quick, getting those quick sort of perspective-y directional lines. I don't know why that's super fun for me. And the faster you move, you get these gradients, which are really nice. Just going to turn this so I can get it this way as well. I'll probably use the W9 more sparingly, so I should take this straight to the bottom here. Maybe just do a big silhouette shape here, up in the front. stick it out a little more. And once I get that other marker, I'll be able to really kind of drop those shapes in. Put some other little details in here. Things that might live in the corners. Grab that 9 and put on just a couple extra little, again, shadows from the previous layer. Sticking with those left side shadows. Put my little figures here. Just 2 little dots, basically. It's just a couple of big. Apology 89 is here. Who wants some chaos? Well, depends on what you mean by chaos. Get a little bit of a path coming in the middle here. Alright. There's another little quick Copic wide sketch. Nice warm-up for this morning. For sure. Unfurl that corner a little bit. Yep, that was fun. Now I think I actually am ready to paint. So, did I get water? I did not get water. I gotta go get some water. So let's go do that. Just occurred to me that I turned the furnace off when I record videos because I don't need the extra noise in the background, and I didn't turn it back on. So it's getting down to about 60 in the house. I'm like, you know what? I'm a little chilly. I don't think I turned that back on. Nope, I didn't. So now we got a little background noise until we warm back up in here. All right. So. Set the wides to the side. I have to transfer out any paint that I had left that's still wet. Which I have a couple of palettes here. I'll just grab one of these. Ones I scraped off at the beginning of the show. I really need a new roll of paper towels soon. Almost out of these ones. That's okay, I got a whole bunch on the shelf over there. Yeah, clean off this palette, make sure we're nice and spotless, ready to go. And let's see how much is still wet in here. A little bit. A little of this red. I wanted to keep that paper towel. Where'd that go? Use it to wipe off my excess paint here. A little bit of Prussian blue in there, that's still okay. Not a ton. Oh man, that's really tacky. Yeah, not really going to be able to salvage a ton out of this. Been sitting all morning. Yeah. A little bit of the Quin Magenta left. Not a lot. Most of it's gumming up on me already. It's only been an hour. That's what I mean. The studio's a lot drier than my old one was. Alright, so I gotta work on this glare here. Sorry about that. I tend to forget about that when I'm on camera. Okay, we'll pull that way over here where the light no longer is. Get my painting off the floor here. The one I just gessoed is still going to be wet for a while, so no harm, no foul there, at least for a little while. Alright, and I need my sketch, which is here. Alright, so this is very, very, very base level right now. I just did some quick base tones on this, and apparently I have a drip up here, which I was not supposed to have, which I don't know if I can lift that at this point. Probably not. It's dry, and there's only, what, like 2 layers here. So the odds of being able to lift this are going to be slim to none. Yeah, might just have to leave it. Oh well, not the biggest pain in the neck. Really minor thing that I'm sure doesn't even show up on camera, but it's a drip and it bothers me, but whatever. So, this is a scene from my visual development project, Kingdom of the Wind. I'm slowly working on those pieces again. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I need to pull up my reference images here. There's a small fishing village in the back of this piece that I really need to be sure I have the images on hand for that I'm going to pull from, because I don't do a lot of architectural stuff, and I really need to play with exactly where I want sort of the design and style of the architecture to be. So I have 3 different paintings. One of them is traditional European architecture, one of them is very much sort of like Pacific Islands, and then another one is very specifically like Thailand and Asia. So some hybrid, I think, of the European and the Asian one would probably look the best, at least for my particular story. So, but I want to play with these hills here, especially towards the back. I want to make sure that's sort of faded a little bit more. I also haven't done a seascape in a long time, and I'm not real happy with this line, so I may want to do that as well. I got to think about this a little bit. I think a bit of a blue glaze to start might be a good idea, just for the sea, which is, it leans greener, but I also need it to stay kind of alright. So I have my smalt blue, which is my secret weapon for shadows. So I'm going to get the rest of that out on the palette. I've got as always, a secondary tube of it. But I want to get as much of that out of there as I can before I actually toss the tube. I say that I think I restocked paint like last summer, so now I'm actually just getting around to my restock tubes. I think I picked up a Titan Buff restock tube as well when I was at the store out earlier last week. Here, my Prussian blue. And which is interesting, I almost exclusively use golden for a lot of my colors, but there's a couple of colors that I actually prefer to just a couple of different brands for. The Prussian blue is actually one of them, so I just finished out my my golden tube, and I actually prefer the Liquitex Heavy Body for my Prussian blue. It's a slightly different color mix, and I think it makes a slightly better blue. My Cerulean and my Cobalt blues are also Utrecht brand acrylics, and then this silver is a Utrecht one, but this is new. I haven't used this yet, so I can't really say I prefer that one or not, but I think I will going in the future, because there's silver, there's like a less permanent silver, or at least like an iridescent silver, but that's a little more I think it was a little more opaque than the other ones I was looking at, so that's why I ended up with that. So yeah, so I just want to get a little extra color in here. I'm gonna think a mixture of the phthalo and the smalt will get me right where I need to be. That looks pretty good. I need to get a rag here. Rag. That's a nice small rag. Alright. And then a brush. And I go with one of my old reliables. Brush and a little water. And I want to get some nice rich blues, especially towards, I think, the bottom here. I'll let the top be a little more of that green, but nice thinned out color here. Oh yeah, that is a lot more of what I was thinking initially. I'm going right over top of these rocks because I want to do them later. I don't want to lose any of the color that I've got. And what the heck, we'll take it all the way up to that edge, because that edge wasn't perfect in the first place. So I was doing it when the top layer was still kind of wet, so I wanted to be really kind of... Actually, I wanted to tape this off, which... You know what, I'm doing that right now. Before I forget, I wanted this to be a lot cleaner of an edge. And we're going to make this a lot cleaner of an edge. I did all that when... No, I did not do all that. I literally just started the glaze. I did all this like last week. If I did all that when you went for juice, it would still be wet. I wouldn't have been able to lean on the canvas at all the way I just did. So get this really close here to this edge. I was close enough in the first place that it's not bad, but yeah, so let's just push that down. Yeah, we're just gonna push that edge like that. That way I get a nice crisp edge between the water and the sky. And apology, I know you like blue, so I'm sure you're oogling over this already. Yeah, that's a lot richer than I wanted. And getting those subtleties to that glaze, I'm actually going to grab just a hint of white for the bottom of this towards the middle. And then maybe push a little bit of it in to give myself some reflections. Especially sort of maybe the way the light is, probably down this way. So I'll just do it right here. Just brighten it up in the center there. Now I'll get a nice soft fan and just pull that out. Okay, make sure it's nice and smooth. That's pretty good. Yeah, I can work with that. Okay, that just needs a quick rinse, and I want to peel this tape while this is still wet. Heck yeah! That's so satisfying. Yeah, so that clear edge is nice, and I may or may not come in with a liner brush towards the end and just give a little more rippling to that water, but yeah, that's exactly where I wanted that. Because I just eyeballed it last week when I kind of put that base coat down, and I'm like, I'm going to have to tape this later. And I'm glad I caught myself before I went back to that edge. That little dot is just killing me here. Hey, I actually got some of it off, I guess, with that little bit of rubbing alcohol on there. Although I think I may have just made it worse and pulled more paint up. That's okay. I can always do a little touch-up later. Alright. So, I wasn't sure. I think I was going to go for some cool. Oh no, they're not. They're warm brown rocks, so sort of a brownish gray. And so for that, I'm going to grab some used paint, I think. Used paint jar. Build in these rocks, and I want to sort of like these rolling grassy hills between the rocks. Since we're right down by the ocean, so we're going to get a lot more moisture, and the grass will be a lot brighter and greener. We have the no white stuff, which is brown-ish. A little greener, actually. Have to get some more red into that. Brownish. Brownish. Yeah. So that's similar to how that base color that I started with. Now I think the only thing you'd probably really see from this distance might be the roofs of a lot of the of this fishing village. So I want to kind of make it a point to make the roofs maybe a specific color. Kind of don't want to go red because my other sort of kingdom in this universe has sort of red roofs, so I have to kick back to the references a bit more. Yeah. This is still a lot grayer than I'd like it to be. I'm trying to get some more like of an orange into this. Ooh, better yet. Red oxide. Shouldn't need a lot, it's powerful stuff. Oh yeah, there we go. And the closer we get to the foreground, I might add some of those like thicker molding pastes into this to build up a little extra texture in these rocks, but yeah, something like that. So I'm going to start with something smaller, bright here, and I'm probably going to sit down since I'm doing more detailed stuff, which is usually what ends up happening. I'll stand for the big stuff and sit for the detailed stuff. So yeah, we're going to drop these in. I might even give myself a little angle here. I don't know how much that's really going to change things for you guys, but at this point I don't really care, because I actually, despite the audience, I still have to get the work done, so. As long as I'm talking about getting work done, though, one thing happened to me this week that I can talk about a little bit. I can't really get into details, but so I was sort of on track to work on a collaborative mural this week, and it was going to be a decently paying job. But I ran into this issue that I have with a lot of things that end up being sort of commissions, is that I really hate doing other people's ideas. To the point where it was stressing me out, and I like almost kind of was like losing sleep over it. Because it was like the sort of project director was like, I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and I'm like, this is a kitchen sink idea. Let's just throw it all together and paint it on a wall. I'm like, I hate this. So I did a redesign, and he's like, "Well, I like the original thing better." And I'm like, "Well, then I'm out, because this is like the exact, like a totally different style of work, subject matter that I don't do. It's like I think you maybe want a different artist for this. I don't think I'm your person for this." And it kind of sucked. But like as soon as I just like decided to do that, I was like, huge weight off my shoulders, and I was like, I really did need to step away from this project. I probably shouldn't have accepted it in the first place, but luckily I got out before things were like almost done or anything like that, so it's going to get passed on to another artist, and I have no problem with that, because I think at some point you just got to be like, you know what, this isn't for me. Despite the pay, I don't think it doesn't matter. You just got to know when something isn't for you. But yeah, so I was like, all right, kind of unfortunate, but you know, I I didn't burn any bridges or anything, but it was like, this isn't my project. And the manager was like, yeah. I'm like, you know, it's the thing of like, I didn't think about the commission aspect of it. I was just like, this would be a fun thing. And then it started to hit me again. I'm like, this is why I don't do commissions, because I just hate doing other people's ideas so much. Like, I can't look at it and be like, this idea sucks, let's do this instead. Like, no, I want this original idea. Like, the original idea isn't great. Here's like 8 ways that this could be better. It's like, doesn't matter. You gotta do what they want. And I'm like, that's not what I do. I'm not a commission artist. I'm a specialist. I do the stuff that I do. I branch out a little bit in either direction, but when it comes to just being a craftsman, just being a worker, that's not why I paint. So I had to say no. I had to step away. And so I did. I would have started that this weekend. It would have completely cut into the studio time too, and it's like, I'm already so behind with all my projects. Seriously, the kingdom, like this painting, the project this painting is for, is 3 years old. Well, 2.5 technically, but I'm just now getting to some of these paintings. It's like, jeez. I have enough problems getting my own stuff done, let alone anybody else's. I'm actually going to lay probably most of the rocks in. I'm not going to highlight everything, but I want the base color in, so even if I go over top of it, I'll be able to at least have that color in and placed. Yeah, once I get to these rocks on the lower left, I'm going to start dropping in some of the paste. Actually, from the background ones to this layer, I'm already using more paint anyway. But yeah, I want to get these rolling hills, and the center path will probably be like a tan kind of color. There's also this little house, little cabin up in this corner too, that I gotta play with the design for that as well. Which is why I probably won't get too far into this painting today, because I gotta start. This painting needs some serious side sketching for me to get all the architectural design taken care of. Stuff that I probably won't even really be able to pull off, considering how small they are. It's like doesn't matter how much I really design it. It's like, well, you're not going to be able to even see it from this distance, but you know. Still, the idea has to be solid behind it, even if you're just going to fudge the details. Okay. And of course, because it's me, I'm painting the sides. Kind of wish this canvas was a thicker profile. This is only a 1/2 inch lower end canvas, which kind of sucks. But it was free, so I can't complain. So yeah, that was actually, I think that was my only 2 topics, were all the crazy art supplies I was showing off earlier, and then this thing. That's basically all that happened to me this the past week. So yeah, I think I want to use the coarse molding paste for the upper layers. This stuff's really interesting. It's a lot has like a sandy texture to it. I'm not going to use a ton of it, just enough to extend the color a bit and add a little extra texture. Another video I want to do, sort of a remake of something I did a couple of years ago, but I didn't really explain it super well back then. It was why I enjoy using a brush for rocks rather than using a knife. Not that it's a super long explanation or anything, I can give it here today, but really it's that you get a lot less control with a knife, and you just kind of have to go with, you know, whatever that shape was that you did with the knife. I mean, you can play a little bit with it, but it's a really lazy way to paint, and when you work with a brush, you can kind of get a lot more interesting detail and shapes with the rocks themselves, and you can kind of build them and flesh them out more that you might really not really get to do with a knife, because you can build really an underpainting or like an undertexture to it, and it ends up, at least I feel, rocks made with a brush tend to look a lot better, where ones made with a knife are kind of like, oh yeah, I used a knife to make those rocks. I can see it from here, you know. It creates a very distinct look. You know, or you can like hybrid it, use the knife for some stuff and the brush for others. But I think just strictly using a brush, or just strictly using a knife, I think is a really limiting way to paint. So I don't do it. I used to. I definitely used to. When I first started doing like big rocks, I was like almost exclusively using a knife, because, you know, I kind of learned that from Bob Ross. He used a knife all the time. But I was like, at a certain point, I was like, you know, I think I can do a better job with a brush. So I made the switch, and I haven't looked back since. Okay. We'll get some grass into this pretty soon. Get a little bit of this ledge. And actually I want to let the foreground go for a bit. This big section, because I'm probably going to go over this like 6 times. So I want to wait until I'm further into the piece to. It's like you don't want to do the foreground before you do the background. It doesn't make any sense, but so I will hold off on that and just kind of give it some extra color, just cover up that blue that I pulled across there earlier, and just enough to kind of give myself a bit of a mental state of where those shapes are going to be. And I can lay down some of the texture, but I don't want to go crazy with it. Also, with adding any kind of like a molding paste or a texture medium to your acrylics, or rather any paint you've got, it allows you to kind of do what I've come to call paint sculpting, where you kind of build up these texture layers underneath, and then either dry brush on top of them, or just work with really, you know, whatever you want on top of it. But it gives you an interesting textural base, especially for foreground objects, because it literally pops off the page, or in this case the canvas, giving the viewer something tangible. At least if you're seeing it in person, it's a little harder to see digitally, but it's something I really enjoy doing, to add that little bit of extra depth to the piece. Alright, let's get some greens. So, I don't have any yellow left on the palette, so I guess I could get some yellow if I want to make a good green. Yellow in that corner. A little more. What time we got? 9:45. I can probably stream for maybe another 45 minutes tops. I have to get some pork into my slow cooker sometime before noon if I want to have a good dinner tonight. I mean, even though I don't want to have a good dinner, but Got to make sure I am at least thinking ahead a little bit. So I want to mix my yellow, and since I have the Prussian blue out, I'll use that just to start. Grab a smalt in there too. And I actually want to get a little bit of that iron oxide just as my first layer, because I want the first layer to be a bit darker and a bit redder. At least for the grass, the way it is starting out, because I need to really kind of push a base layer first, cover up this white at the very least. So I just have that pushing back and forth a little bit. I can probably stand back up for this. There we go. Da da da. Da da da. So what about you guys? Do you have anything to talk about? Any questions for me? I'm kind of getting a little bit dry mentally in terms of topics. I really was. I thought I had more to talk about, but I guess I don't. Also, if I had prepped the other oh yeah, I really should check to see if that gesso is dry over there. If it is, I might be able to actually stream longer if that's dry, because then I can actually work on that piece, which is the one I wanted to do today. So that sort of rich, yellowy, greenish-brown color makes for a nice... I'm thinning it out a little bit here, just because I want to give myself some room to work on top of it later. I'll leave my path a little more open on that side. Maybe leave that to be more white. I didn't make enough of that color, now I gotta make more. A little red. There we go. What yellow? My regular yellow is cadmium yellow medium pure. It's just sort of my go-to. I have some hands of yellow in thinner viscosities on the shelf, but don't usually go that route. Those are more specialty. Getting more of that upper hill towards the back is a lot darker because I'm picking up on that blue from that undercoating. Remember before when I said, hey, I'm just going to cover this up with the blue? Yeah, kind of coming back to bite me now. Why not? Get it now when I can. Luckily, I only have to do it to the one side, because this side's just that rock. All right, a little thinner. Now we're too yellow. So just kind of have that path kind of cutting through the center there. So I'll let that up, and I'll come back in once I finish the green. I'll come back in with like a lighter brown for that base color. Because I built all those rocks ahead of time, I really kind of got the ability to establish where my baseland is. Now it's just really about filling in the blanks and pushing that green around to where I want those hills to sit. So then when I do the sort of the upper layer with the green, I mean, this is just a base coat. I'll be able to push then bluer darks, and then the brighter yellow and white highlights on top of that to really kind of push for a more complex grass, especially with showing a lot of the undertone that I'm getting here. I actually want to get more of this thinned out section, I think, towards the front. I really like this glaze here. And also, in order to kind of contrast with, I'm not sure where my highlights are going to sit with the rocks yet. Probably a little bit more on this edge, so I'll have to be a little bit darker, so this edge actually stands out more. So actually, I might push a little bit more blue into my glaze here, especially right in here on this edge. I'll just have to compensate a little bit with the tonal color for the path. Kind of ran out of paint here. That's all right. Again, base coats, not a big deal. Just pushing color around. Cover up the white, because you can't do jack shit with white. I mean, you can, but not without causing problems for yourself anyway. And there won't be grass up here. This is just going to be the path color, because the way the scene and the story is that it's a sort of a mountain path leading down into this valley by the coast. So once you're up here to this part of the mountain, you're not even going to get grass, because it's going to be at too high of an altitude. Maybe a couple little bit of patches of moss towards the end, but not the lush grass that's in the valley itself. Alright, so my path color, I want to grab some of my Titan buff, I think, rather than just pure white, and I want to mix it with some of the grays I started with for the rocks, for sure. So sort of this gray and the brown in here. Again, all just base colors here. Probably going to change sometime before the end of this. Yeah, but this is a nice sort of base, sort of grayish color. I can work with this even up in here first. Might add a little bit of the red oxide to that, just to warm it up slightly. And as always, there'll be a little figure up here in the standing on this ledge, just because it's, you know, one of my pieces. So I find that people actually look for it now. People that know my art, especially like shows and things, where I start hitting people that have seen my work before. They're like, "Where's the little guy? Where's the little guy?" They're actually looking for it in all of my pieces now. So it's almost a signature style element where if I don't do it, people feel kind of betrayed. Like, "Oh, it's not in there? Oh, such a tease." So I'm gonna keep it a little bit lighter, maybe even a little browner for that path in the center, which is just gonna kind of teeter back and forth through the grass. And I'm doing some nice dippy motions with the brush, little U shapes, because I want to really kind of build the idea that it's down in like in a rut. It's traveled, so you have a little bit of a lower indentation in the land. So all these things going through my head with the piece is really kind of building out that world. It's not just slapping paint around. It's everything. Every little piece is really intentional, especially in one of my pieces. Other people maybe not so much, but at least when I'm working, I'm really thinking about everything in that world and how it looks and how long it's been there and newer growth versus older growth and everything like that. So as mentioned before, there's probably going to be a highlight on this edge of this rock, so I want to tone this color down a little bit. I'm just going to use some blue for it. Blue and some of that gray. And I'll probably mix some of this in as well, so when you get those little shadows and crevices over the path, so there'll be light spots and dark spots throughout it. But again, base color, I want to be sure that my base values, at least, are going to be accurate going forward. And a lot of times I used to do like Photoshop concepts before paintings. I still like doing that, but I don't usually get the time as much as I used to. And usually the Photoshop concept makes the painting better because I got to hammer out the hard stuff, and I don't have to worry about doing that on canvas. I can just kind of have fun at that point. But at a certain point, it's just like I just have to work on stuff because I'm so far behind. And that's kind of where I am with this. So all I have is my base sketch and just a couple of quick color notes jotted down in ink. So it's really just about interpreting that and trying to think about where I was when I sketched this, because this sketch is from October. I think of this year or of last year, but I'm not positive now. I have to look. Yeah, it's from last October. So that's how far behind I am with a lot of these sketches to paintings. So, yep, just trying to catch up every week. But I sketch so often that it's like for every week that I don't get a painting done, I fall like 3 weeks behind. So it's a constant struggle. I want to get a little bit more lighting light stuff towards the back here. So the buff plus a little more titanium, I think. And just dry brush with it towards the back. This has got a little bit. With that. This lighter color will appear with the path out on the left, but we want the darker stuff to fall towards the back. So it'll be something like that. Like so. So yeah, finally covered up the white. Awesome. Got the base color done. I do want to walk over here and see how dry the gesso is from earlier. Again, probably still wet. Like no doubt in my mind that it's easily still kind of tacky, but ooh, it's a lot drier than I thought it would be. It's cold, so it's still moist. Not gonna be able to paint on it for at least another hour, I'd say, but it's a lot drier than I thought it would be. And I got a sketch for that's what I want to do. Actually, I'm not even entirely sure which one I'm going to do yet. I have a sketchbook to the side, the one I just finished up, and a couple of different ideas for that. This is called Floating Oasis. Interesting concept for this one. So you'll see the arc horizon of a desert below this, but mostly it's a big cliff where our figures are looking out, and then all these sort of like sky clouds and floaty rocks and stuff, which are always really fun to do. So that's probably going to be what that painting becomes, but there's a handful of other ones in here that I would have liked to do, but I still probably would like to do. Yeah, here's all my marked pages. They're all dog-eared. You can kind of maybe see them all the way through. That's the one I'm redoing in a different thing. There's a video outline in here. There's several video outlines in this one. That one's interesting. That's a vertical piece. That one I can probably skip back to later. Just going back to a handful of these. Just to see if that is really the one I want to start with, at least for this sketchbook. Something else kind of... asteroid mine, that's a similar idea to that. Here's this one. This is why I got the silver. This is called Trespassers, so it's like a hunk of metal twisted up in all these vines and branches. And it's got a light on top of it that's shining out a red signal. That's why I got the silver, and that sketch was from early January. So that'll probably be... That one I'd actually really love to do the painting process video for. So maybe I'll try and work on that. I'll have to stretch and gesso another canvas though. What else is here? Sort of a split piece. Yeah, these I can really wait on. Yeah, that one I can wait on. There's 2019 video ideas. I've done a lot of them. Haven't, but not all of them yet. That one's alright. I think this was like a rehashing of another idea. This is going to be fun. So, this is called Shock Factor. And it's a night piece that it's going to use that sort of electrical energy technique in what will be next week's video. So it's dark, and the only light is coming off of these spires, which are like charged with this energy that's kind of just running up and down them. So that's going to be a really, really fun painting to do. Whether or not I do that large scale or if I do that on slate, I'm not sure yet, but that'll be a really fun piece. And notes for Sketch Everyday videos. I've got like 5 different Sketch Everyday videos I'm behind on recording. Yeah, here's a couple good ones. We have a valley with these big pipe outlets in these rocks that are spewing some kind of liquid, probably just water, but sort of a mountainy tower with a path wiggling up it. This is gonna be another fun one. This is a trail in northern woods, so it's another sort of trail going back, but it's like all pine trees and like a big hillside. I'm really looking forward to this one. And there's some kind of structure in the back. Yeah, so I definitely think I'm gonna go with the floating oasis. Put that piece over there. That's still drying. Whenever I paint that, but yeah. So those are some upcoming painting ideas. Anyway, if I can ever finish any of the ones I start. Hello. What happened? What happened? Am I still going? I feel like there was a blip. I think there might have been a blip. Let me wave over here. Just to see. Okay, yeah, we're still going. Alright. Wasn't sure. It looked like it dipped for a minute there. So I'm pretty good for today. I gotta do some, again, I gotta do some sketches for the architecture in this before I'm really ready, I think, to continue it. But yeah, fun to get at least a bit into this piece. I want to, I think I might cover this palette in plastic, because I might go back to it later today. But again, it's getting all that design stuff out of the way is going to be the trick that I need to not be on canvas for. I gotta really hash that out. Where's all my plastic bags? So I'm gonna spray this and coat it. That'll be able to save at least some of that paint for either today or tomorrow. If I let it sit longer than that, it probably won't last. But hold on to that for later. Set this down to the side. And yeah, I think that's about where I'm sitting for this particular day in the studio. So I've been down here since 7, which is a solid 3 hours. That's pretty good. I feel pretty good about that. So I might be calling this a day. At least as far as the stream goes. A lot of other stuff I got to take care of around the house today, as well as different projects I'll be jumping in and out of. So I think the stream froze again. Why? Oh no, it's because I let it sit. It's latent over on my monitoring of comments side. So unfortunately, as it always seems to be, just when I start getting people watching, I cut the stream. So thanks guys for hanging out with me this morning. Feel free to go back and watch stuff once this is done rendering and uploading. This is just the video for this week. Again, I kind of got behind, so I didn't get to get the video done that I wanted to. But again, as a teaser, this is next week's tutorial. How to create magic and light energy for fantasy landscapes. Sort of a more advanced tutorial. Actually, I want to tilt this up, I think, a little bit. So you guys can see that there's a little bit of a glare because I used a shiny paint color. So yeah, this is next week's big Saturday tutorial. I've got a whole bunch of videos planned. I just got to get around to recording them. Hopefully that's going to be Sunday that I get around to doing all that. Just spend the day recording and stuff like that. But as always, yeah, thanks guys for hanging out with me. I hope you guys used the stuff I did today to inspire you to keep making stuff of your own. Just push forward, even if you're kind of feeling in a creative rut. Just work anyway. Always works for me, and I think that's the thing. You just got to force yourself to work sometimes, and really kind of push through it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the stream. Thanks guys for hanging out with me. Again, as always, this has been Cinder Block Studios. Subscribe for more. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this. I keep saying consider supporting on Patreon, but nobody is at this point, so I don't know why I keep saying it. But yeah, feel free to drop comments, and I will see you guys next time.